What if I told you there was an extremely talented NBA player who got overlooked so badly that he was traded in one of the biggest deals of the last 2 decades? And somehow, the entire NBA seems to despise him. This sounds like a great underdog story. He got traded away from the team that drafted him, onto another team, and then traded away for a bigger star. Why does the NBA not like him? Now you might be wondering what player I'm talking about. And obviously, I'm talking about SGA, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Today, I want to talk about his story, what made him so disliked, and why I'm starting to change my mind about him. And maybe, by the end of this video, I hope I can change yours too. Let's walk away from the narratives really quick, and let's talk about his life story. Shai was born in Toronto, Canada, and both of his parents were athletes. So he had a pretty good, solid foundation to build off of, and he was pretty athletic from a young age. He played tons of sports growing up, but he found love in basketball, so he decided to pursue that. After years of working on his game, he made a big decision. He came to the States to play for Kentucky. Kentucky is known for producing pretty elite guards, and SGA is no exception. At Kentucky, he wasn't a star right away, but by the end of the season, he made all of his skills known. He showed what he could do. He was a very smooth player, he had great dribbles, he had great court vision, and proved that he could be a pretty reliable scorer. One thing that scouts really loved about him was that he showed kind of a calm nature on the court that you don't see a lot in a lot of players. He plays with an extreme sense of pace. After that one season at Kentucky, he decided to declare for the NBA draft. In the NBA draft, he got selected 11th overall by the Charlotte Hornets, who immediately traded him to the Los Angeles Clippers. Which, saying that sounds crazy, I honestly forgot that happened. The Hornets are a horrible franchise, or at least were. I think they swapped the ownership. With the Clippers, Shai had a modest but pretty good rookie year. If you remember him getting drafted, you probably remember not really knowing much, unless he kind of flamed your favorite team. Now, you might not remember much because he came off the bench, but he showed that he could be a pretty efficient scorer, and again, he showed that kind of calm nature at a NBA level. The Clippers didn't seem to have much faith in him, but one team did: Oklahoma City. Paul George was coming off a borderline MVP season. I think he was third in MVP voting, and one of the biggest trades in the history of me watching the NBA happened. Paul George, in exchange for what seemed like 100 picks and this young player who didn't really seem like a big deal compared to the 8 or whatever picks they gave up. I remember seeing him as a kind of consolation prize. You don't have certainty that you will be able to draft good players with this, but you'll at least get a almost top 10 pick of the previous draft in the trade. Well, honestly, I don't doubt that SGA is the real prize of the trade, and I think that him for Paul George is honestly a pretty good swap. After this trade, everything became different for Shai. His scoring jumped from 10 to 19 to 24, 31, and even over 32 points per game. Every season, he seemed to get better at something. He had a better handle, he had better finishing, he became a better free throw shooter. He slowly turned into an amazing offensive engine, and his defense that he showed from back in college, back in his rookie year, really stepped up as well with the kind of system that the OKC Thunder had. And now he's easily one of the top 5 best players in the NBA, and I don't care how you feel about him right now in this moment, you have to agree with that. He also probably is the best two-way guard in the NBA right now. I would say that he's not as good as defense as some other people, but his offense obviously makes up for it. And his defense is pretty rare. I mean, I don't see many star top 5 players in the NBA playing extremely good defense like he does. And I do think that his defense gets overblown a little bit, but he still does play pretty good defense for scoring 30 points a game. Now on to the bread and butter of this video. What did he do to be hated, and why did I personally hate him? When you really think about his story and dive deep into it like I just did, it sounds pretty inspiring. An underdog who was traded twice, one time for a big name like Paul George. He worked his way into superstardom with hard work. He led a young team to the finals, and even though he beat a injured Pacers team, they can only verse who's in front of them, and he won the finals as a pretty young player. But the thing is, if you're not an OKC fan, you probably have some sort of disdain or hate towards him and maybe the OKC Thunder. Now, why is that? One thing I'm going to get out of the way, the main thing that people bring up in these kind of conversations is foul baiting. People think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is taking shots or maybe forcing shots to try to get a whistle. A lot of people think that he just hunts for contact instead of actually taking a good shot, which we know he can do. More extremists think that the NBA gives him a crazy whistle. People think that the refs favor him and they think that he's just bound to get 12 free throws per night. They also bring up a team argument. A lot of people don't like OKC in general, as they see them as a bunch of young kids who don't really have veteran leadership, and they might think that they're kind of corny, or they might hate the way that they behave. They kind of act like a college squad. They also don't like Shai because they think that his team diminishes his value. They think that his team is so good that it boosts him up, not the other way around. So when they look at Shai, they see the entire OKC Thunder, and they say, okay, if Shai's out, J-Dub, Chet, they'll take the reins, and they don't actually need Shai. They could fill in another person at that role. And somehow those takes got even louder this postseason, where I'm not a fan of the OKC Thunder, I'm a fan of the Pistons. I was watching them, and I could not stop hearing, foul baiting. Every time he had a bad game, it was crazy. It was like, he's actually horrible. The team carried him. Most of the time when he had a bad game, they had a loss. Instead of celebrating his leadership or his impact on this young team, people doubled down saying on how he's not so good, that he's not as good as the media is saying. He doesn't deserve MVP. And one thing I forgot to mention is his personality. A lot of people don't think that he's cool. He doesn't try to be flashy. He's kind of like Jason Tatum when I brought him up in my last video like this. He doesn't cause any drama. He kind of stays in his little nonchalant, if you want to call it that, persona. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people like genuine people, and I think that some people don't believe that that is genuine. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really agree with a lot of these takes, but I wasn't a huge fan of him either. That's kind of why I made this video first. I personally really hated some of the shots that he was taking. I think that a lot of the time, he would not take a good shot that I know he could make. He knows he could make. He would force a shot, like jump into the chest of a defender, and I personally don't like watching basketball like that. I think that he's such a good player that it kind of diminishes his own game when he takes these horrible shots. Because of these shots, it made it really hard for me to fully appreciate him, and I wanted to make this video to kind of look at all of the good he does and his entire story to try and change that. But the more I looked at it, honestly, the more I realized that the hate is kind of just narrative driven. I don't think it should be taken at face value. I think that the media is really trying hard to hate on this young team. I don't think people want to see change. And while I still stand true and say that he's such a good player, he does not need to be taking these crazy shots, I would like to say I think a lot of his fouls are fair. I mean, I'm going to pull a study up right now and tell you that he drives one of the most times in the NBA per game, so he's down, he's getting gritty, and he does deserve a lot of these fouls, but the highlights kind of show what I'm talking about. Now on to the actual thing of this video. Why should we like Shai? Well, Shai is honestly one of the most talented players in the NBA, like I was saying. If I showed you clips and you didn't like him, so I showed you clips of a blurred out face, maybe just a silhouette, of him doing the moves that he does on a nightly basis, you would love what you were seeing. And you'd be a fan pretty instantly. I mean, he's a great defender while pulling off some great handles, great shots. He's now able to score at all three levels. I mean, this guy's really good. He's the primary offensive engine for probably the best team in the NBA currently, which makes it all more impressive that he actually tries on the defensive end. He has great footwork, smooth handles, great court vision. He's a good passer, everything. So I don't know why I didn't like him. Again, I think that some of the shots he takes are dumb, but when I remove that bias of the media, I start to realize I actually do like his game a lot. And one thing that I mentioned earlier is he got better every single year that he's been in the NBA. So it shows that he works extremely hard in the off season. That's one thing that I can respect a lot. He's not out partying, he's not out doing all this stuff. He's actually trying to get better at the sport he loves, which is amazing. I want to watch him do great. So I hope he's out there practicing and putting on a great show every night. And off the court, he seems like a really humble guy. Although I don't really mess with the persona that he puts on where he acts all like cool and stuff, I do think that he's a very charitable guy. I think that his teammates really love him, which show, he must be a pretty genuine guy. And he stays extremely active in his community, whether that be Oklahoma or Canada. I know he's a very charitable person. I read a bunch of reports while making this video to try and ease my mind on him. And I read that he visited a bunch of sick kids in the hospital. He visited a Boys and Girls Club and gave each of them like $500 worth of gear with Converse and all that. I also read, I don't have facts on this, but he donated large sums of money to a few different charitable organizations, which I can always get behind. And I think that all that stuff, and probably even more to come when he probably gets a little bit bigger after this MVP, he'll start some youth basketball camps in maybe Canada and Oklahoma and probably give back to the city. And I think he genuinely cares about giving back, which makes me like him all the more. I mean, he seems like a good person, a good teammate, a good basketball player. I can't hate him anymore. And I think you would agree with me too if you kind of take away that media bias that's influencing you. Now, in conclusion, when you look at everything, it's really, really hard to say that there is actual genuine facts to hate on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with. I think what really happens is the media sees this superstar player and sees that he's not very flashy. He's not very crazy like Anthony Edwards or funny like LeBron. And they just did not know how to market him. So they took a thing that makes the NBA fans mad and ran with it. And honestly, I find it amazing that he's quiet, efficient. He's like Jason Tatum, where I did not like him because I heard everyone hated him and I was like, yeah, I don't like that either. And when I finally did my research, I was like, he's actually pretty fun to watch. And he doesn't cause any drama other than the occasional whining to refs, obviously. But every NBA player does that now. Every NBA player kicks their head back and stuff. And I think that the NBA just forced all this drama onto him. But overall, I don't think that Shai is a bad person that deserves all of this hate. And I hope that next season, upcoming October 21st, you take this information and you watch him with a whole new frame of reference. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. It means a lot. If you stuck around, it means a lot. NBA season's kicking off soon, so we'll get some more videos out. I'm going to do, I think, a weekly series. I'm setting my mind on it and doing weekly news recap or something fun like that, so stay tuned. Peace.